Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Geeks Second Life adventure with me, John Parker, and
Me, Jack Howling. Now, we've got something very special for you. With Second Life, on YouTube and around about, what's the one thing that lacks? Well, what is the big thing that lacks the most when it comes to Second Life? Learning how to do LSL. Well, that's for me in my case anyway. I've always been intrigued in learning to do LSL so I can do my own things and do whatever the hell I like to do. However, if you're someone like me and you're not exactly best friends with documentation and whatnot, then we've decided to do a video every now and again on learning how to use and write in LSL. Now, I will be learning, John will be teaching, so the idea behind this is that what you'll benefit from is the questions that I ask will be questions that you might ask as well. Therefore, the ones that I ask will get answered, meaning that you will hopefully better understand LSL in its entirety.
oh, and of course, if you have any extra questions, put them in the comments, and we can answer them to the best of
So
our ability.
yes, as the title suggests, big and bold, learning LSL. Now, obviously, when you come to learn these kind of things, with PHP, JavaScript, whatever, it's always best to go with the basics, correct?
Yep. Basic.
Get what you know, so then you can use them in the future, piece them together, and mold them to create whatever the hell you like.
Mhm.
So, teacher, do you want to begin?
Okay.
For this is your show indeed.
Well, I'm not a perfect teacher, but okay. When you create an object in Second Life and you want to do something, but it doesn't matter what it is, it's just if you want to do something interactive, on the Content tab, you can click New Script, of course. Now, when you click New Script, the first thing that matters is that it immediately shouts to you, "Hello, Avatar." This is Linden Lab's way of saying it's working. If you double click it, it will actually show you the script. It's only 12 lines long, well, 11 lines long. And that line there, the LSA 0, hello avatar, is the actual bit that did the message.
First things first, right? The best thing to start off with is those two.
Yes.
State entry and touch start.
Mm-hmm.
Explaining what those are.
But first of all, even more basic, what does that mean? When you start a script in LSL, like if that was a blank script, the first thing you must do is type default, open up the brackets, like you would on an if statement, Jack, and then do state entry, and then open the brackets. I always like to put the brackets on separate lines out. That is a default script. If I was to say that now, this object would be scripted, but it wouldn't do anything. It should hopefully compile. Yep, done. That box will do nothing at all, but it's scripted. That's the default script now.
Now, you know the word default?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like having PHP tags?
No, the default here means it's a state. In LSL, scripts can have states. It's an advanced feature, but it's still there. And by default, the first state that you use is default. So you can have your own state names there. I'll get into them later. Well, later in our videos probably. But just know that you have to type that to start a script off. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and all states must have state entry. Even if you don't put anything in it, you must have that there. Okay. So say you want to make this object. Just when you click it, every time you click it, it would say a basic message out. You'd use touch start for that. Now, in LSL, there's 3 touch functions. There's touch start, there's touch, and there's touch end. Touch start fires when the user presses the left mouse button down on an object, and touch end fires when they let go of it. Touch fires all the way through touching it. It's like keeping track of how long the touching is done. I think that's how it works anyway. What I can say is that touch start is what you use to register when someone's clicked it straight away. Now in the brackets you have to put an integer and just call it something like num. And what that's used for is, I don't use it personally, but it's used for if multiple people are touching the object, that variable contains the amount of people who are touching it. So by default it's 1. Because of one person touching it, but if loads of people start clicking at the same time, it might register more than that.
Okay. That's perfectly fine. Now, first things first, do you want to explain to everyone what a variable is, just in case? Very quickly,
Yes.
just kind of what a variable is.
A variable is a way of storing information in scripts and programming languages. So, for example, if I wanted to store, I've got to do it up here, but if I wanted to store, I don't know, my name, and I wanted to be able to use it later, I'd use something called a string, and I'd call it name, and I'd have John in it. There we go. And end it with a semicolon.
That's like using var name, isn't it then?
Yeah,
or
in JavaScript. Or in PHP with $, yeah. But you have to specify, and this is the first language that you've used, Jack, I think, that you have to actually specify the variable type. And in this case, we put string. Now, a string, to those who don't know, is any bit of text. And it can be anything inside quotes. So you can have loads of characters, like you can put all these weird characters in, and that's still classed as a string because we've got the quotes there. As long as it wraps around quotes, everything's fine. And by the way, to those who are wondering, okay then, but how do you put quotes inside quotes? To actually output quotes, you have to put a slash. Just put a slash quotes, and that will be what's called escaping. That's for people who want to know that. Okay, so that's a variable then. Literally, you have string, you can have an integer, and it's just like a whole number. So I can have an integer num equals 5. And I could have, I think float works. Yeah, float works as well. So I have a float. Now, a float, if you're wondering, is just a number with a decimal. So 3.5 is an example number, 3.75 or 3.1562, end it with a point there. Even 1.0 is a float.
And you can have Boolean as well.
Yes, you can. And in LSL, you have to actually put... No, actually, sorry. I'm wrong. First time I've been wrong. No, I'm joking. With Boolean in Second Life, you have to use integer. Just like in C, Boolean doesn't actually exist. What you have to do with Boolean is put an integer. So if I want to make a Boolean variable, I've called it Boolean variable here. You can either put 0 or 1, 0 being false, 1 being true, or you can use the LSL constant variables, which are false in capitals or true in capitals. Notice they change colour.
I see. Okay, that's fine.
Those now, what false is basically the same as doing 0, and true is the same as 1 in LSL. In fact, let me just prove that to you because I do like proving things. If you were to use the ll say command on channel 0, because 0 is the public channel where people can hear you on the chat. If I was to say Boolean true is the same as colon, and I did brackets string true in capitals, what that's going to do, if you were to click that object now, Jack.
Yep.
Notice it says 1.
Yep.
That just proves that true is the same as 1 and false is the same as 0. Okay?
Okay.
There we go then. What you want
now,
next?
The one thing I think the best to talk about, you know where you got touch start?
Yep.
You know those 2 parameters in there? Are they called
the one parameter. Yeah.
Oh, 1 parameter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to explain to everyone what? You have explained what integer. You have explained what integer is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But why are you using it in that context?
When Linden Lab made the touch start function, they wanted to make it so people who were programming objects that were touchable, they wanted to make it so that if I don't know, if you know that box that you've got in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you were to hold down your left mouse button, and I was to hold down my left mouse button on the object, it would register 2 people clicking it, and num, if I was to do like ll say bracket 0 num, I have to cast it to a string now because otherwise it moans at me. And I put a full stop there, I didn't mean to. No, stop moaning at me. 1 sec. Let's go through again. So I think if I was to click on that, now you click it again, Jack. No, it still says 1. That's odd. I'm sure it was meant to be the amount of people who are clicking on it. 1 sec, let's just confirm that. It's always good to look at the documentation, isn't it? Because it was I never properly used it myself, you see. Num detected. Number of agents detected touching during the last clock cycle. So I guess you weren't doing it quick enough. To keep clicking it.
I'm clicking, but nothing's happening. Is that what's...
I'm getting loads of object ones. Is that what you're getting? Yeah, I'm just getting spam loads of object ones.
Oh, my list only goes up to... oh dear.
What?
Whoops.
What?
We've done quite a lot of... If you get up in your conversation menu, you actually see we've done a lot of object ones.
Don't worry. The saying something doesn't only last for a certain amount of meters. I doubt people pick it up. Anyway, So ignore that variable really. It's not that used, and I suppose if you had a certain use for it, then you could use it. You can find some scripts online that have.
So it's
make
never
use
really
of
used
that.
for anything that big then. Just.
I don't use it personally because I don't really know why I would want to use it. I suppose if you wanted to track any people who are clicking the object, then it would work. But as you just saw, it doesn't really work very well.
So can
I
you,
don't know.
whenever you do touch start though, do you have to have something inside
You
those
have to have
brackets?
that. This is called a signature. In all programming languages and scripting languages, they're called signatures. So functions have signatures. Think of that as a function, but it's not actually a function. This is called an event in second line.
Okay.
It's important to know about events. Every object, of course, has different events to do different things. So state entry is an event that, when you res the object on the ground,
Yep.
or when you save the script, because it resets the script, this state, this whole default state, is immediately fired, and as soon as it is, state entry gets called. Okay, so it's an event. It happens. It's a function that gets called because of an event occurring. Now, touch start is an event that happens whenever someone clicks the object. You've also got what was the other one? Timer, which is an event that gets fired whenever a timer is set. You've got money, which is a event when it gets fired when you give money to the object, if you're like kind of paying on a donation machine. Yeah, there's different events for different things. You can find them all on the LSL wiki website. So anyway, saying something out to the chat. As you saw, I was using something called LSL, which is the function in LSL that is for basically sending out messages. Now, the messages can be on channel 0, which they call public channel, which is the channel that we type on.
Like
that.
Yeah, okay. All that, yeah.
Or it can be on any number. I think it's from minus 2 million something all the way up to 2 million. And they are all different channel numbers. I think that was the correct range. Probably not. But so, for example, I could do channel 1, hi, exclamation mark, and save that. And wait for it. Okay. Now, if you were to click that box, nothing should happen.
Nope. Don't get
it did send the message, but it was on channel 1, so we aren't on channel 1, we're on channel 0. But if I change that to channel 0, give it a second, Jack. Yeah, go. There you go. Okay, so channel 0 is what we use to talk to people with. So there you go. That's literally all LSL is. It takes 2 parameters. It takes a channel number and a string with the actual message. And that's it. Okay?
Okay, brilliant.
There's also a very similar function called LL Whisper, which is the same, but it just does a shorter range. I think it even puts it in italics. If you click it, Jack, hopefully. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It just goes object whispers. And I think, and there's one more.
Shout.
Yeah, LL shout. And if I just save that, give it a sec to save. Yep, like that. There you go.
That's good for like, for example, you know, like Stargates and all that. You know, I think what you'll find, you know, like the old DHDs, the computers that we used to use. Remember?
Yes.
I believe they actually use the LL. Oh no! Actually, no, they don't. There's actually an option in the menu to extend the distance of how the computer communicates to Stargate. So that must somehow
switch from whisper, shout, whisper, sound, shout.
So that, folks, is how that works.
Hopefully, unless they've used some crazy technique. But anyway.
So that is as much as I know. Is there anything else like basic syntaxes that we should know about? Even like if and else statements, that kind of stuff.
If and else are basically the same way as you would do them. Like if you were to do a standard if, like I don't know. Oh, okay, if I just do a variable here, integer number equals 5. If number equals 5. Oh, I hate the way they do indentation on this editor. And I'll say naught. Hello everyone. Actually, no, I'll just put 5 was detected. Save that. Okay, now click it. It should say 5 was detected. Yep. But if I change the number to 4, the if statement should fail. Try that. Nothing happens.
Yep,
okay.
Nothing.
So if statements work the exact same way as you would expect them to work.
Now, the one thing I will actually add is that for those of you who are actually new to programming, I wouldn't recommend. Well, I suppose because John, you know more than I do. How would you feel like someone watching this first before looking at, I don't know, like PHP, JavaScript, that kind of thing?
I am terrible at doing like beginner tutorials.
Beginner. Oh, right.
Like
Yes,
the
yes,
ones
yes.
where oh, this is an integer, this is a string. I always find it like incredibly awkward because I don't know whether or not I'm explaining it good enough. I'm pretty much better at the ones where I'm explaining, the basic functions and then expanding onto the advanced stuff.
Well, that's why I'm here. You've actually just mentioned one thing I do want to know. Can you do functions?
Yes, yes, you can. But there's one rule. One rule.
What's the rule?
Well, there's two technically, but I'll go for the first one first. You have to do them all in the global namespace at the top, the very top, outside of the state, or outside of any state. So it has to be at the top where my cursor is now.
Yep.
So if I want to make a function, there is another rule. If there's no such thing as void, Jack. Now, as you don't know, there's no such thing as void. So
Void.
have you ever heard of void? Where you've got no parameter. Like I know in JavaScript, if you made a function, you do function tests, and then you'd like do all the stuff in there. But if you didn't return nothing, right? If you don't return, then that's called you're returning void. You're returning nothing. Void means nothing. Well, in LSL, void doesn't exist. So all you do if you want to make a function is that you don't put the return value.
Oh, right, okay.
However, if I want to return a message, a string, I have to put that it returns a string like that. It's a string test.
Otherwise, that return will not work.
It won't compile, I don't think. Let me try that. Yeah. Error, return statement type doesn't match function return type. So basically it's saying that they don't match because I haven't specified it. So if I match it now, it should compile. Yeah, there you go. And of course I can call that function by simply calling test. And then wait for a second. And click it. Nothing should happen. I don't know why I thought it would. I've got to put the LL test, the LL say there. Now if I do that. Now try. There you go.
Yep.
So that's basic functions.
One thing I will add. This is not for general. If you create obviously the strings, the integers, and the booleans that we showed you before, or do things like LLSay, for those of you who are completely brand new to programming, I think it's ideal that I say that at the very end you've got to put a semicolon. Yes,
that ends a statement. It also means that you can put multiple statements on the same line, so I could literally copy that and paste it and paste it and paste it, and all of those will run as separate commands. The semicolon makes that possible. If you run that now, you should see that happen. There you go.
And this is the same with JavaScript, PHP, and, well, that's the only two I know, mostly.
Many languages do, I think, like Lua and Python and all that, they require you to put a new line, I think.
Oh, okay.
So.
Now, of course, in LSL, there are many various LL functions that are called.
These are functions. If you wonder what LL stands for, by the way, guys, it is Linden Lab. They named all their functions beginning with LL. The reason for that, I think, is because... No, I think the reason for that is because when OS OpenSim came out, remember OpenSim?
Yep.
They had their own functions and they put OS in front of it. OpenSim. So it's basically distinguishing that if there's any custom functions at all, they have access to them. Also, it distinguishes it from these events. Because remember, these events don't have LL in front of them, but the functions do. However, I think I can insert events. Yeah, look, see, you've got all these, which are constants, the ones in capitals. And then you've got these, which are the events.
Now, of course, we can't exactly go through them
every one of them
because we are going through basic ones. But in the future, we will do videos. How many are there? There's constants. There's
yeah, you've got the functions at the top. Hang on.
Yep.
These are all the functions. I think we're getting LL.
Functions. Yep.
Then all of a sudden you go into these capitals. I don't know what that means, but anyway, capitals. These are called constants. They're basically just variables that are set permanently. You can't change them. They're useful for like knowing about descriptions and whatnot. And if you keep scrolling, you all of a sudden get these lowercase ones without LL at the end of them. And these are all the events that get fired for different reasons.
Now, of course, in future videos, we will definitely plan on making separate ones about constants and statements and that kind of stuff. So don't worry about that. But other than that, in this video, is that more or less as much as we could say?
I do want to say one more thing, just for people who are interested. If you've ever wondered why certain objects can send you messages without other people seeing them, like instant messages in your IM, that's done with LL instant message. And pretty self-explanatory. But here's where another rule comes into place. How do you send a message to a certain avatar? How do you detect that particular avatar? Well, I'll tell you. In events, particularly censored events like these ones, touch ones, where an avatar has to actually click it, you can use something called LL detected key, and in the brackets you put 0,
Right.
and then you put it as a key. By the way, key is another variable type. A key is basically a string that is specific to our avatars and objects. So every object in Second Life has, I put on a database on Linden Lab servers, and each one of those objects has a key. That key is an identifier. So in fact, if I make a variable here called test, it's a type of key, and I've put L detected key 0. I think 0 is the channel it detected it on. I'm not quite entirely sure, but we'll put 0 anyway because that's what I always use. And if I say that out onto the channel, I have to cast it to a string because it will mount it me otherwise. Wait for it. Now, if you click this box, it should show your key. Okay?
Well, it shows you the key, but it doesn't show me it.
No, well, it should. It should have gone to yours. That's using LSL.
Oh, no, it has as well. I have no idea why it didn't appear on the... Yeah, I've got it.
So yeah, so that is your
incredible.
key. Now that means that I have now access to whoever clicks the box. I now can find out who clicked it. And there's another function that's used for people, LL get owner. What this does is it returns a key, and the key is not the person who clicked it, but the person who owns the object. In this case, it would be me. So if you click it now, Jack. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Forgetful me. I did not tell it to say it. There we go. Wait for it. Okay, find it. Yeah, that's my key. So it's my owner. And that way, by putting all this knowledge together, you can do a simple if statement here. If LL detected key 0 equals LL get owner. So if the person it detected is me, then say to everybody, behold, the owner has touched the almighty object. And if they didn't, if it's not me who touched it, then say, oh, you touched me. Okay, so just save that.
Now, before we continue, one quick thing. If statements, they might not know what they are for. To my better understanding, mainly the clues in the name. So basically, if you want an object to see if, I don't know, an example. If an object is, I don't know, can you check if an object has a description of like 1 or something?
Yes, you can.
So if an object has a description of 1, then say, right, okay, you have in your description this. However, if there is nothing in the description or nothing in there at all, then you'll get to say something else. So basically, the if statement starts with the if, and if... Oh god, I'm confused myself now. Yeah, I've just confused myself.
And then we get what you're saying, Jack. Basically, the if statement is a conditional statement. You can run code on a certain condition. Anything inside these squiggly brackets, I call them squiggly brackets, they're not the real name. Anything inside, so that one there, will run if that condition that we put in the brackets is true.
It's true.
Now, double equals basically means is equal to, and I think triple equals is identical to, and there's two different meanings. I don't know whether LSL can do triple equals, to be honest with you. I've never tried it. I always use equals anyway because I'm lazy. But yes, so if that's equal to that, it will run this code. Else, obviously, in English you would say else, then do that instead. Don't do that, do that. And I think you can also do else if statements, which means basically you can give another condition. And in another condition, you can keep doing that, and at the very end, if you want to, you don't have to, you can put an else to say, if none of those are true, then do this code. And you don't have to do the else as well. You can have that if you want to.
But of course, we'll get into that in a different video. And of course,
if you
constructors and operators. I mean, is that what they call them? They call them, I don't know.
I don't know whether we have.
What's that?
There's no such thing as classes in LSL, so the constructors don't exist.
Please. Oh. I mean, no, I mean like the exclamation mark and the equals to and the more than.
Oh,
the
operators.
Operators, that's what
Yeah.
I meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are simple. Those are
Okay.
what I recommend to people is before looking at that video is that they look into the basics of scripting languages, like what operators mean, because they're very much the same in Linden scripting language. By the way, if you click that box, Jack,
Yep.
it should say, "Oh, you've touched me," and if I click it, it says, "Behold, the owner has touched the mighty object." So that does work. And by the way, your idea, Jack, of checking the description, yes,
Yep.
you can do that using something called LL get primitive params. Which I know sounds nasty. The wording is nasty there, but all it does is it allows you to get literally nearly any property that the object has: its position, rotation, its color, its texture, its glow, its description, its name. You can get all of that from it. In fact, if I do this, now of course I'm not going to explain all this yet, but I'm just giving a
We'll do a
demonstration.
different video, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just giving a demonstration that I can get the description like that. And then I can go, if the description equals 1, and I'll say the description is 1. Otherwise, it's not. I have done something wrong now. 1 sec. Okay. And if I save that, hopefully it won't moan at me. It's moaned at me because that returns a list. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Sorry, yeah, LL get primitive params returns a list of values, just in case it returns multiple values. So we have to use this function.
Convert it to
List to string.
To say.
Think of lists as arrays, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And list to string basically says I want to get the 0th index in the array. So the first element basically, which is this description. So if I now that's successfully saved, if you click it, it says description's 1 because I set the description to 1. But if I change that description to blank, now try. It's not.
It's not.
Okay, so that just proves that it works. Okay then.
Now, that's pretty much all we're going to do for this one. Of course, in the future we'll go into more depth on, operators, if and else statements, functions, and of course all the the LL and the statements and whatever you call them, each 3 of them, and we'll do them in different series. And also one last thing, if there is something you do want to know, or at least you're thinking of that you want to kind of learn, then send us a message and we will do a video on it. Because do bear in mind, I am learning. I have actually learned a lot more in doing this than actually previous and reading documentation. So it's good enough for me. And, well, that's a good thing. So
and for those who have, by the way, understood what we've been talking about today, I'd recommend looking into the following functions. If you write this down, it's LL say, LL shout, LL whisper, LL instant message, LL detected key, and LL set pause, which is setting the position of an object, LL get pause, LL set rot, and LL get rot, which is the rotation of an object. Those functions I'd recommend looking into. They're very useful. I use them nearly every time I script, just to keep track. Carry on, Jack.
Yeah, no, I personally agree. That's a great idea. And of course, if you ask us to make a video or make a lesson about doing something specific, obviously we're using those functions in there, and of course along the way we'll explain, and that way it jogs your memory and you can learn much faster. So yes, do remember, if there's anything you want to know, please send us a message and we will be glad to reply. Because when John replies, you'll no doubt explain it to me, therefore I will know something new. So and that's a good thing. So until next time, folks, do take care, and remember,
Let your geeks slide out. Bye-bye, guys.
bye. That is all we have for today, folks.
Join us again next week on another Sci-Fi Geeks video to find out what adventure we embark on next.
Thank you for watching. Feel free to like and comment on the video below. Remember to subscribe so you can keep up to date with our latest videos.
Till next time,
Take care, stay safe, and remember,
let your
your
geeks slide out.
slide out.
Toodle pip.
Toodle pip.